Hey, it's Zane, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, I want to talk about the only 3 ways to lose in Bitcoin. There's only 3 ways to lose in Bitcoin, and I want to share with you what these 3 ways are so that you can avoid these mistakes. Now, people don't lose in Bitcoin because of Bitcoin. They lose in Bitcoin because they're uneducated, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't really understand what this asset is. And this is why I do my Bitcoin consulting, one-on-one coaching calls every single week. And, every day I meet people who have made mistakes and they're wanting to no longer make those mistakes and to do this thing right. Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin promises two things. It promises two things. One is wealth acceleration, and the other is wealth protection. But you have to do it right, and unfortunately many people don't, and this is the reason why I do what I do. So if you need to book a coaching call with me, you'll see a link in the show notes, and we can get together on Zoom. Typically sessions go for 45 minutes to an hour, and I can help you with the next best simple steps based on where you're at and what your goals may be. You'll see a link in the show notes. Now, Bitcoin, in my mind, is the greatest wealth opportunity we've seen in our lifetime. And there's a reason for that. It's because we're in the midst of a great wealth transfer from an old system that is dying, a fiat-based system, the dollar, US dollar, euro, the pound, all of these currencies around the world that are being debased at an alarming rate, which is driving inflation. It's basically driving the value of your retirement accounts, your savings, to zero. And because of that, you need to be preserving your financial energy and your savings in something that can't be debased. And this, of course, is what Bitcoin is. But people don't lose money in Bitcoin because of Bitcoin. They lose money in Bitcoin because they're uneducated, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't really understand what this asset truly is. And so let's get into this conversation. Now, before I start with that, this coming week, Wednesday night, I have a Zoom live stream, and it's going to be on at 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern. If you'd like to join, you need to register for the event. It's a free event. I'll be going for about 90 minutes, and just type Zoom in the comments below and I'll send you the link to register. You must register to attend. If you have friends, loved ones who want to learn more about Bitcoin, by all means share the link with them and they can also join. If you can't make Wednesday night, Friday morning I'm doing the session again, and that will be at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern on Friday morning. So that's Wednesday the 6th of August and Friday the 8th of August. I'd love to see you there if you can join one of these sessions. Now, let's talk about this now. The number one reason why people lose in Bitcoin, like I said, is not because of Bitcoin, it's because they lack education. They lack education. It's no good trying to get your information when it comes to Bitcoin from your favorite politician or from your banker or from your accountant or from the Today Show or from somebody who's on the mainstream news in a flash, fancy, expensive suit. It's no good trying to get your Bitcoin education from those people because they're not educated in Bitcoin. They haven't done the work on Bitcoin. They're not incentivized to do the work on Bitcoin. And this is why there's this concept in Bitcoin called proof of work. Bitcoin is created, mined every 10 minutes through a protocol mechanism called proof of work. And this is why when we talk about being involved in Bitcoin, embracing Bitcoin, joining the Bitcoin revolution, the world's first truly global free market, it requires us to also do proof of work. Now, what does that mean? It means to read the books. It means to listen to the long form podcasts. Maybe it means to join a community of like-minded people who are all also starting to transition and spend more of their time in the Bitcoin revolution, in the circular economy, the emerging parallel economy that Bitcoin is going to be. And so all of these things require you to do a little work. And yes, it may take some sacrifice. It might require you to go without maybe watching your favorite show on Stan or Netflix for a few hours per week. But we're talking about your financial future here, for yourself, for your family, for your kids. And this is an opportunity that I don't believe is going to be there in the same way that it is now in 5 years' time. So really you want to be paying attention to Bitcoin now, putting in the hours, doing the work, and really understanding what this is, the problems that it solves, and how it can really transform your financial life. Not just in terms of number go up. You may already be on track for a very financially secure retirement. But you have to understand that if all of your assets are exposed in the central control system in this environment that we're in, I believe that you are a sitting duck. I really believe that. And so sometimes the work is not about, how much you have. Sometimes you have to put your ego aside, and you have to realize that, well, maybe I need to pay attention to this as well. I might be financially secure. Maybe the future is bright. Maybe I've benefited significantly from this inflation because I'm rich in assets, and all of those asset prices have been driven to the moon over the past 5 years. Maybe you're in that boat. But if you are, I would just suggest that you need to learn about what Bitcoin is, because you need to be decentralizing a part of your wealth, in my opinion. So more and more people who are very, very wealthy are coming to Bitcoin. And like I said in yesterday's video, just this week I had 3 property developers come to me, and I've helped them to onboard in a safe and secure way into Bitcoin, because they can see the writing on the wall. And so it's not just people who need Bitcoin for the number go up, it's people who need Bitcoin for the true revolution, and that is freedom go up. It's the opportunity to secure your own wealth in a really sovereign way. That's what Bitcoin is truly about. So it requires education, and I would say that as probably a stage 1 benchmark, you need to be thinking in terms of 10 hours of study. But then I would say that you need to get to 100 hours of study in Bitcoin. 10 hours to just know enough about what this is in order to make a start, to deploy some meaningful amount of capital to Bitcoin, and then really take your learning journey to the next level. And I would be targeting 100 hours of study, and that would mean reading 2 or 3 books. It would mean listening to, maybe 2 long form podcasts per week for maybe, 10, 12 weeks, something like that. And that would get you there. And as you learn more, you are going to develop not just your confidence, but your conviction and understanding about what Bitcoin is. And with that, you're able to deploy more significant parts of your capital and your financial life into Bitcoin. So it's really important to get educated, and part of this education involves changing your mindset from this fiat mindset, constantly looking at the Bitcoin price chart. Some people now, they're feeling a little uneasy because Bitcoin's price has dropped 7-8% in the last 7 days. I think it went from a high of about 123,000 USD to down to about 112 now. But the thing is, it's up 85% for the year. And so people get all anxious and stressed, and they want to know, when should I buy, and is this a good time, and have I missed the boat? But all you really need to do is zoom out and look at Bitcoin's price chart since 2009. And what you notice is that its trajectory is clear. It's up and to the right forever. Yes, every 4 years there are pullbacks, there's ebbs and flows, at times there's 25, 30% pullbacks, particularly even in a bull market. I think every 4-year cycle, it's common for there to be 3 to 4, 30% retracements on the way to a new all-time high. But if you zoom out, what you actually notice is that Bitcoin's price every 4 years essentially adds a zero to it. So first 4-year cycle, $100. Second 4-year cycle, $1,000. Third 4-year cycle, $10,000. This 4-year cycle, $100,000. Next 4-year cycle, $1 million. The 4-year cycle after that, $10 million. This is Bitcoin's price trajectory. This is why there are very, very prominent and well-educated people, not just in Bitcoin, but in the entire financial landscape, who are openly forecasting on podcasts, on YouTube, on mainstream news channels that Bitcoin is going to $10 million within the next 10 years. Which is, what's that? I think it's 100x from here. So this is where we are now. You have to zoom out, educate, zoom out, educate, zoom out. Stop looking at short-term price movements. If Bitcoin gets to $10 million in 8 years' time, do you really think you are going to care whether you paid 123,000 USD or 112,000 USD? It's really not going to matter. So just save yourself the anxiety. I know that when I first deployed into Bitcoin, about 3 weeks after I did that, the price fell by about 28%. But because I'd done the work on Bitcoin and I knew my time horizon, I just simply saw it as a gift. I saw it as an opportunity to actually buy more Bitcoin. So what did that do? It lowered my cost base. And so you have to have that mindset going into Bitcoin, and that requires you to stop worrying about these short-term price movements, stop thinking about fiat dollars, start thinking about how much Bitcoin you own, how many Satoshis, how much Bitcoin can you acquire over 12 months, 2 years, 5 years. And that will help you to just zoom out and look at the big picture. So I hope you've got that one loud and clear. It's no good listening to your best mate at the pub who's done no work on Bitcoin. There's no point in doing that. You have to self-educate when it comes to this. Number 2 is the other reason why people lose in Bitcoin is because they buy fake Bitcoin. They buy fake Bitcoin. Now, what does that mean? What it means is that there's this whole raft of people right now who are getting all giddy and seduced by Bitcoin treasury companies, ETFs, and they think they have real Bitcoin. But they don't. What they have is exposure in the fiat system, in the centralized system, to number go up. They have exposure to Bitcoin, but they don't own the Bitcoin. Guess who owns the Bitcoin? The Bitcoin treasury company or Wall Street. The financial institution. They're the entities that own the Bitcoin, not you. And so what's fascinating about Bitcoin is, unlike traditional share portfolios, we don't need to entrust our financial life to a middle person, to a financial planner. We don't need to do that. With Bitcoin, we can actually own the underlying asset in our own self-custody. We can be the custodians of our own wealth. And obviously, when you buy shares, you don't really own shares. What you really own is a paper claim on those shares, but those shares can be diluted. They can issue more without you having any say in the matter. And this is why Bitcoin exists, because it enables you to own something, a piece of something that cannot be debased. No more of it can be created. You cannot be diluted. With Bitcoin treasury companies and ETFs, there's a lot of financial engineering. There's a lot of leverage that goes into these plays. And for as long as the music is playing, everybody's dancing. But as soon as the music stops playing, guess what? There's going to be some serious hangovers. And once this party stops, a lot of people are going to get burned, and they're going to end up with a lot less than what they thought they were going to have, and they would have been better off just buying and stacking and chilling and holding real underlying on-chain Bitcoin in self-custody. And so it's really important to understand this. Don't buy fake Bitcoin. If you want to have a little dabble, have a little bit of exposure to it, maybe you're very immersed and very used to outsourcing your wealth and having somebody take care of it for you because that's what you've always done, and maybe that's the only way you feel comfortable getting exposure to Bitcoin because you don't trust yourself to learn about the true revolution of Bitcoin, which I'm about to talk about in a moment, and that is self-custody. But if that's all that you can cope with and stomach, and that's where you're at, by all means do that. At the end of the day, I guess Bitcoin is the best performing asset in history. It continues to outpace everything else. And so if you're happy outsourcing your wealth and you want to continue to do that, have a little exposure to Bitcoin for the number go up, and that makes you feel good, by all means do that. But just know that exposure to Bitcoin in these entities is not you owning real Bitcoin, which in my mind is one of the true revolutions of why Bitcoin actually exists. So don't buy fake Bitcoin unless you absolutely must. That's my point in all of this. Point number 3, and this is the third and final way that people lose Bitcoin. They don't practice and embrace self-custody. And I would reckon that 80 to 90% of the calls that I do every single week are with people who are nervous about self-custody. They haven't taken the first steps on their self-custody journey, or maybe they've had a bad experience. They want to know about the best hardware to use, the best way to do it in a way where you can sleep at night, you know that your Bitcoin is secure. Maybe you want a succession plan. People want to know about running a node, why that's so important for self-sovereignty. All of these things are part of the self-custody equation. And in the beginning, it all sounds a little bit overwhelming. And I guess a lot of people just say, well, look, it sounds too hard. I'm just going to keep my money in the bank or with my financial planner or whatever it might be. But in doing so, they're missing out. They're missing out on this transformational wealth shift that Bitcoin gives you the opportunity to be a part of. And so none of it's complex, it's just new. It's just new. That's all it is. It's not hard. And I've had people this week who I've helped on board into self-custody for the first time, just given them the simple steps. They've gone and done it on their own, because what I like to do is help, teach people how to fish. I'm not going to do it for them. And I've had several messages this week from people saying, Zane, that was so simple. I've just done it for the first time. I feel like I'm on my way to self-sovereignty based on the information and the steps that you gave me. Thank you so much. And this is what self-custody is like. Once you take the first step, you do a little bit, you watch the process, and then you do a little bit more and you do it again. You go, wow, that's not so bad. And then you can go to the next level, because with self-custody, where you start today is not where you're going to end up, because there's levels to self-custody based on how secure and how locked down you want your Bitcoin to be based on the size of your stack. For example, if you've got your Bitcoin sitting in an SMSF and it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, there is a different protocol for doing that than having $3,000 or $4,000 worth of Bitcoin sitting in a self-custody hot wallet. And so all of this is part of the conversations that I have with people every single week. But rule number 1 in Bitcoin that you must never forget is not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. And so if you have your Bitcoin sitting on an exchange with a brokerage, with a treasury company, with Wall Street, with an ETF, unfortunately, I'm here to tell you, you don't own that Bitcoin. You may have your name on it, you may have a paper claim on it, But if the shit hits the fan, you do not own that Bitcoin. The only way to own your Bitcoin, to sleep at night, and to benefit from the true revolution of Bitcoin is to own it in self-custody. You have the keys to the safety deposit box on the blockchain that contains your Bitcoin. For as long as you have your Bitcoin on an exchange, guess what? It's sitting in their safety deposit box, not yours. And so I really want you to get that. So I'm going to wrap this up. 3 ways to lose your Bitcoin. Number 1, don't educate yourself. If you don't get educated on Bitcoin, there's no way you're going to win. Number 2, don't buy fake Bitcoin. If you must, have a small allocation to something because you think it's outperforming Bitcoin and you want to join, the disco, the party disco that's going on out there. That's fine, but just make sure that you don't end up with a raging hangover at the end of it and no Bitcoin. So important that you don't end up in that situation. And then number 3, this is the main reason why people lose in Bitcoin. It's because they leave their Bitcoin in the hands of somebody else who has the keys to their Bitcoin. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. I'm running a Zoom event this week, like I mentioned. If you'd like to join me, just type Zoom in the comments. I'll post a link for you so that you can join me. It's a free event. We'll be going for about 90 minutes. I know you'll get great value from it. But other than that, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. This is Zane signing out. I hope you got something from today's video. Bye for now.